This is my windscreen, and there is my Fancy Feast alcohol stove. You know, it's kind of hard to find windscreens, and if you're brand new to this, that might confuse you a little bit. So I'm going to show you how you can make one out of tin foil and talk about some of the ones I've used and made. Windscreen is a very important component of your alcohol stove system. Right, I got a few windscreens here. Now this is the one I use for my own cook system. It's a really nice foil. It came with my white box stove, and it's my preferred one. It's about 16 3/4 inches long. Has the holes punched in the bottom. When you use a windscreen for an alcohol stove, you want a little bit of air coming in the bottom. But of course, when I set it up, a lot of times there'll be a gap like that on the leeward side. So what I mean by that is if the wind is coming this way, I'll set the windscreen up so this side, this little gap, if I have one, is away from the wind. This one is made out of the material that's made for your MSR Whisper Light stoves, and it's a foil very similar in feel and everything to this one right here. This is a titanium one, very flimsy. It's adjustable. So I know there's one you can get at REI. I can't remember where I got this one, but that's your titanium windscreen. And of course, most of you are going to start out making one out of heavy-duty tin foil. But kind of fold the edges up. This is the bottom where I punched the holes. I folded up a little bit. Did that on the edges too, and one on the top. And this is made out of 2 layers of good old Reynolds Wrap heavy-duty tin foil. All my windscreens are cut to fit into the pot I bring the most. Everything fits into my iMusa 12 CM pot, which I call Hillbilly Pot. So measure your pot, whatever the depth of your pot is. This one's 4 inches, so I'm going to make my windscreen 8 inches, so it'll be double. But I want to leave, about an inch, maybe an inch and a half longer, so I can make my folds. This piece of tinfoil I just ripped off is 24 inches by 18. So that's going to give me plenty of room to work with. Now you're going to find your own way to fold these things, but I like to lay a straight edge on it. I'm going to bring the tinfoil over so my bottom edges are pretty even. And that was 18 inches, so that should give me about 9 inches to work with. And then I just take my straight edge, push it toward the top, because what I'm looking for here is just a nice, clean fold. Then I'll take my straight edge out, and you can use the edge of your scissors or your finger, however you want to do it, to smooth that edge out. Really nice. You want this nice and crisp. This is going to be your top edge. I'll even give it a little roll with the dowel. Alright, so now we got tinfoil ready. So what I'm going to do here is just take my straight edge. I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing this. And I want just a little lip here. I just kind of hold the straight edge, take my finger, bring the foil over, and pushing against that straight edge like that. I'm going to bring it out, press it down. I'll use the edge of my scissors to kind of burnish it and make a really crisp fold. So that's going to be my top. Now I'll trim my gnarly edges, and I'm just going to cut that. You do want a sharp razor. I'm not pressing too hard. Okay, cutting through a couple of layers there. Might be a dull blade. Now I got a clean edge there, and I'll do that on the other end right down here. Same thing. But what I'm going to go to next is this fold on the bottom, which I'm going to fold that up a couple of times, because this is where you want a little bit of weight is on that bottom. So I'm going to like double or triple fold that up. So looking at this when I made it, it seems like my fold is 1 inch. All right, so 1 inch, and my 4 inches is going to put me, let's see, 4 inches is what I want. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and make myself just a little mark at 4 inches right there. And I'm going to go over here and make one. I want it to be that tall. So I'm just going to go ahead and just drag me a little light line. That way I know where I'm going now. I think I'm going to fold it 3 times. So I'm going to go down from this 4-inch line. This will be the actual height of my windscreen. So I'm going to go 3 inches and 3 inches. And I'm going to make another line there, or actually I'll just go ahead and make the cut right here. I can make a line. If you're going to cut with scissors, just draw yourself a line and cut that cut. My scissors cuts through tinfoil quite easily. I got a nice smooth area to work with. I'm going to make me an inch mark. There's an inch. There's an inch. That's going to be my first fold line. I like to use a straight edge just to get that fold. Run it on my straight edge. Take the straight edge away. Just run that down with my fingers. But what I really like to do is take the edge of my scissors and burnish it. Get a really nice crease on that. And that gives you a good hard crease. And then I'm going to do that one more time here. And rather than just, freestyle this, I'm going to lay my straight edge right where I cut. Bring that up. I'm going to do that one more time. And then just burnish that down again, either with your dowel or the edge of your scissors or your fingers. But really getting the edge of those scissors on this hard surface really does it. So the last one I made, I didn't really fold those edges in too far. That looks like that's about a 1/2 inch. Like, I could just even eyeball this. That looks good enough to me. That's about a 1/2 inch. It's not that particular. And I just use the edge of my straight edge again. Bring that in. Burnish it down. Get the edge of my scissors. Crinkle that down. And if I want, because I know I'm going to have some extra length, I could just fold that one more time. Which, why not? It just gives a little bit more body to the windscreen. Or length. So I want it to be about 17 when I'm done. So there's 17. I'm going to give myself about an inch, maybe 1 1/8 right there. And I will start from there. About a 1/2 inch. Looks good enough to me, Shig. And I'll bring that up to my straight edge. Rub it, get my straight edge out of the way. Push it down. Burnish it. So I put my straight edge there again, right where I folded. Push it. Fold it over. Burnish it. I'm going to rub it all down. That really just gets your folds real nice and sealed in there. So our next thing is to put our holes, our little air holes for the bottom. So nothing scientific here. I don't know how I came up with this. I probably copied it from another windscreen, but going from center to center on my holes, well, from edge to edge is about 2 inches. What I'm going to do, just because I can, I'm just going to lay this one right on this one, and I'm just going to make me a dot. Anywhere from about 2 inches to 1 3/4 apart. One other thing you want, good old hole puncher. You saw these in school, and that's what I use to punch the holes around the bottom of my windscreen. And I'm going to start punching me a few holes here. And everywhere where I made a dot, punch me a hole. Punch me a hole. Now I know some of you are fastidious and you want to get these holes exactly the same height. I am not that good. I just get them in the area because it's just camping and no one's really coming over to admire my work, as I've sadly noticed. And that's about that. So now we got our holes, and now we got a basic windscreen for an alcohol stove. Now that I got it done, I'm going to take my dowel and smooth the whole thing out one more time. You can use a rolling pin. So right here, I got myself a basic windscreen. And you got yourself a nice, simple, cheap windscreen that will make your alcohol stove and system work great. And remember one more thing, if you're new to stoves, put a lid on your pot. Your water will boil faster, the windscreen will help. You know, the other thing with this tinfoil windscreen is for you ultralighters, that's probably about as light as you'll ever get. 0.41 ounce, not even an ounce. Grams, it's 11.5 grams. So, you know, to simulate here a little bit, so I've got my alcohol stove sitting on the ground, and I put my windscreen around it. and I will have my pot sitting on top of that. Now you only need the windscreen to come up a little bit up your pot. I cut this so it just comes right to the bottom of this handle right here. You don't want your windscreen this tight. You don't want it so tight that there's no breathing room. So set it up so that there's a little bit of breathing room around, and it is a very important part of the alcohol stove system. You don't want to choke that flame out as it comes up the side of your pot. And you might find you're out camping and it's blowing around, and let's just pretend this is a rock. You might have to find a couple of rocks or a couple of things to kind of hold your windscreen in place when you're cooking. That's pretty common. This is what I buy, and I get it from REI. Of course, you can order it on Amazon. MSR windscreen material. You get a big old roll of this, which is meant to go around your MSR gas stove. So I can get probably 2 windscreens out of that. And it's easy enough to cut. Don't make your mama mad, but I just got an old pair of scissors here that I've kind of ruined, an old pair of sewing scissors, and I use just these scissors to cut this. But what I do is I take this piece and I cut it up into little vapor barriers. And what that is anytime I use an alcohol stove, and this is a Fancy Feast stove, I always use this to sit on the ground, whether I'm cooking on a picnic table or on the ground or the cold ground. It gives a little insulation, and I swear it gives you a little bit of a better burn. Particularly if I'm on pine needles or something and I sort of clear my area a little bit, that's very helpful. You can make the same thing with tinfoil. Another nice thing to make your windscreen out is get one of these nice roasting pans or a turkey pan and cut it out of the shape on the bottom. So that is pretty much 17 inches, the bottom, which is almost perfect for this. And you can probably get a good 2 windscreens out of that for the hillbilly pot. And any windscreen you make, whether out of a turkey pan, a lot of people use flashing material. You'll find it in the roofing department. You can get it in silver, but a lot of people make them out of flashing too, and you can get that at any home or hardware store. Tinfoil, 11.5 grams. Titanium, 15.5 grams. MSR windscreen, 19 grams. My windscreen from the old white box stove that I got years ago, 18 grams. Let's go ounces. Ounces. My windscreen from the white box stove, 0.63 ounces. MSR stove windscreen, 0.65 ounces. Titanium windscreen, 0.53 ounces. Tinfoil windscreen we just made, 0.41 ounces. There's the proof in your pudding. And speaking of pudding, I'm a mite bit peckish. You know, let's say your windscreen is crinkled up and you want to smooth it out. Just take I got a wooden dowel here from the shop. That's a 1-inch wooden dowel. Lay it down, just kind of roll it out. You can just keep rolling and eventually roll these wrinkles out really nicely. And you can see the folds, but that really smooths it out a lot. And I'll do that when my windscreen gets a little bit, a little bit bent up and out of shape like that. I bring it home and lay it on a hard surface. Just roll it off that hard surface. And it actually even sort of puts the curl back in it. And that'll smooth your windscreen out really nice. So thanks for that tip, Tinny. Nice collection of old Matchbox cars, which I also have some tucked back there. Peugeots, Rolls Royce, Bentleys. A couple of my heroes right there. Dale McCurry and Alfred A. Newman. Woo, buddy.